No, we've got a great moment for you all now. If you've got any questions at the end of this next session, then please, by all means, just ask us the questions. I know none of you are shy. That's what you do. You ask questions, you write about stuff, you talk about stuff. I'd like to invite to the stage two of my dear friends, Anna Richardson and Kelle Bryan, who are very well known. You go over there, I reckon. You go over there. We're going to have a little kind of discussion about midlife now, because of course, obviously, we're here to talk about fashion and shopping and retail. But of course, what we were talking about earlier on, JD Williams is all about listening to their customers. And so I think it's great to get the perspective of two very well-known people that have got great voices, great opinions, and I think we're all going to learn a little bit here. So first of all, welcome.
Hello.
Ladies to the stage.
Hello.
First of all, can I ask your ages? Is that all right?
How dare you? 53, about to be 54.
Congratulations.
So
Happy birthday.
Thank you very
Kelle,
I'm 49.
49. Do you consider yourselves both midlife?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, I do consider myself now midlife. Yeah.
And how do you feel about your ages? I know that's a really open question, but how do you feel about being 49 and 53?
I love it. There are moments where, don't get me wrong, there are moments where I go, oh, you know, I miss this or I miss that about being in my 20s. But I do love the comfortability, if that's even a word, of who I am now, just feeling comfortable in my own skin. Do you know what I mean? That kind of sense of, yeah, this is me and I feel good about that.
Can you just put your hands up? Who's in their 50s? Here. Great. A lot of my cohort, a lot of my girls. So briefly, I feel amazing about turning 54. I love my wisdom. I love my experience. I know what I want. To your point, I know what I don't want. I know what I'm not going to put up with anymore. But at the same time, it's really hard being in your 50s. We'll touch on that shortly, but I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not. But I think we know who we are at this age.
JD Williams did some polling, spoke to a whole load of women, and we've got some great stats for you here, and we've built this discussion around these stats because I love a stat, and I think a stat and numbers give us information. That's the most important thing. So we're going to talk about fashion and style briefly. A striking 73% of midlife women feel irritated that they are supposed to adopt a more age-appropriate style as they get older. So I know this is a very touchy subject, and I've got a story here that I'd like to add. But Kelle, I'm going to pass that over to you first. What do you think about that? Are you surprised by that? Do you think it's accurate? Do you feel the same way?
I know that it's 73% of women, but I think appropriation is about what empowers you. That's what's appropriate for you, not necessarily the length of the skirt or the length of the hair or how wide the leg is or what the cut is. It's about what's appropriate for you. I love the fact that I own my life now. So I am running for a train. I am still doing a school run. I am just still doing these things. So I will wear a pair of trainers. I will wear comfortable clothes that are appropriate for my situation, rather than feeling like when I was in my 20s, I was always on the pull. Right? So I was conscious of, oh, should I wear this? Is my cleavage out? So you made choices that were different at that time. But at this time, I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm done with that. You know, that's all good. You know, that side of my life is fine. I've got my children. I am not looking to pull. You should be looking to pull me as I am. Thank you very much. Right. So therefore, I don't have that. That's not my driver. My driver is, am I comfortable? Is it practical? Am I still feeling fine and fabulous in these
So
clothes?
what you're saying is then, Kelle, I think, is you're saying there isn't anything which is age appropriate. There is Kelle appropriate. You make your own rules.
I make my own rules. And as long as I feel comfortable and still sass, like I still like to feel sexy. I still like to feel appropriate for the environment that I'm going for. I'm going to work environment. I still like to...
because over my career in the last 20 years, I've tried my hardest to change the perception of what we see in the shop window, what we see in shops, and what we regard as being right for a certain demographic. Are you shocked by that, and how do you feel about that?
That's right. So 68% of women.
68%.
That doesn't surprise me. I can absolutely sympathise with that. I think there's something incredibly frustrating at this age about seeing brands targeting young, beautiful, youthful people, and I don't see myself represented there. So style is style. I'm really interested in style, I'm interested in fashion, and I'm not seeing myself represented. And that is incredibly frustrating. So that stat doesn't surprise me at all, which is why I love what we're doing today. We
Really
know who we
important.
are, we know what we want, we know what we like to wear. So actually, other brands need to step up to where JD Williams
And the
is.
food was good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So many years ago, I did an interview on a radio show. I'd just gone onto television, but I'd been styling for many years before that. And I guess people had just started to learn what my message was, which was celebrate all women, regardless of shape, age, side, race, doesn't matter. It was about celebrating women. And I was on a panel, and the debate was, should a woman dress appropriately for her age? And I was hearing this stuff on this panel, which was absolutely that a woman should cut her hair short and lengthen her skirt, and it was to be, and to use the TikTok word, demure. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. As a fashion stylist, as someone that, I lived in the fashion industry and love fashion with all of my might, because women, for me, get told when you're allowed to wear makeup. You get told when you're allowed to be sexy. You get told when you're allowed to grow up. And then all of a sudden, when you've had the kids and the relationship and the jobs and you've worked your asses off, you get given a whole new set of rules. Now, that doesn't happen to men. No one's told me that. And I'm a man, I can tell you that. No one has ever told me when I'm allowed to be sexy or when I'm allowed to grow up or whatever. Only women get told that. So I think the whole question of age appropriate is complete, if I'm completely honest with you. So I'm so glad that you feel like that. And I think it's really interesting. And I think it is sessions like this and us talking about it is really important to dispel those myths, because we are representing a lot of people out there that maybe don't have the courage or the voice to talk about it, whereas we're in a room full of very confident people right now. And I think the more we talk about it and the more we spread that gospel, I think it's the right thing to do, personally. Round of applause for Gok Wan. Thank you. Right, we're going to talk about confidence now. So, Anna, my darling, 34% feel very confident about their appearance since entering midlife, but 25% feel the complete opposite. So, a quarter of the women that we polled said that entering their midlife, they've lost their confidence. Now, what do you think about that, Anna?
I do think, we were talking about this earlier on, weren't we, that there's an invisibility at this age. We're kind of spanning... We're between, aren't we, youth and older age, and again, we're just not being represented. We are invisible. So again, it doesn't surprise me that women talk about losing their confidence.
Yeah. I've got some more stats for you to follow on from this. The top 3 symptoms women have experienced since entering menopause and midlife are decreased energy levels, 34%, decreased libido, 34%, and... and vaginal dryness, 26%.
Okay, so I'm going to wax lyrical about this. This is a real pet topic of mine, and I'm sorry to jump in, Kelle. This is a real pet topic of mine because we don't talk about our intimate health at all as women. It's a taboo topic. I will smash that taboo right here, right now. We should be talking about vaginal health and vaginal atrophy, which is part of menopause, and we don't talk about it. So decreasing estrogen, as we know, it affects our skin on our bodies, our skin on our face. We tend to focus on here. We're not focusing on down there. We need to look after the skin on the inside as well as the out. It affects your libido. And actually, this is the time when you're meeting new people to really enjoy sex. So you've got to make sure that actually you're taking care of your intimate health. And it's something, it's so easy to fix, and we're not discussing it enough. The other great thing about being this age is that women are now experiencing their sexuality in a different way. So I met a woman when I was in my 40s, spent 9 years with her. I'm now with a guy. And I don't think I was able to embrace that when I was younger. But there's something about being midlife where you can go, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
This is new, this is exciting.
So do you think those stats of the decreased energy levels, lack of libido and the vaginal dryness, do you think that can contribute to the 25% of people that feel that they're losing their confidence because they maybe don't feel that they've got somewhere they can talk about their body changing and about their sexuality and about their different needs because of where they are in their life?
There's something very embarrassing about when you're dating again, and it happened to me, especially dating a guy again, where if you haven't had sex in a long time, yeah, of course you lose your confidence about that, about my body's changed, I'm going through the menopause. Is everything still working okay? I've slightly lost my libido. So yes, to your answer. I mean, do you agree with that, Kelle?
Yeah, I think a lot of that lack of confidence comes from your lifestyle. We're raising children, or we've raised children, and we've possibly got weight gain from having those children. You've possibly got weight gain from going through menopause. You are the head of the household, even if you are with a male or a female partner in some cases, and you're having to take care of lots of things at the same time. And so that sort of crossover of everything, sometimes we come last. And our self-care and our self-thoughts we're almost the last thing to think about. I know I am. Hold my hands high and say, I think about myself last. If I'm shopping, I'm thinking about what the kids want. If I'm, buying clothes, I go, oh, that'll look nice on X. But I don't necessarily think about myself. I come last in a lot of areas. And I think when that happens, it's losing confidence, and also illness. I've struggled a lot with illness, and so in having illness, I lost hair. I've lost, what I felt made me feel sexy as a woman. My shape. I became flat-chested. And these are all mine, by the way. But yeah, so when I lost all of that, I lost my confidence because I didn't feel like me anymore, or the person that I used to see in the mirror anymore. So all of those things do happen, and that lack of confidence can bleed into all areas of your life.
Great, brilliant. Can we give them a round of applause? Because that was... And, this is honest. This is an honest conversation, and it needs to happen. We're going to talk about invisibility, because this is a word that I think we don't use enough across all generations, actually. More than 60% of midlife women have at some point felt invisible since entering midlife. And this has happened mainly while shopping for clothes and in social situations where younger generations are involved. So I think we're talking about concerts there. We're talking where there's, parties, whatever. Interestingly, 22% of these women have felt invisible in family settings, which I found really shocking, is that the idea that you can not feel that you have a space in your own unit. Now you two, you're both in the media. Your job is to be visible, the complete opposite of that. So do you have any advice for anyone out there that maybe is feeling invisible, or they feel like they don't belong, or they used to belong? What advice can you give?
We were talking about this earlier, weren't we, Kelle? And you actually had some really great tips around this.
Yeah, I was thinking about us taking a moment to think about ourselves and actually who we are, because you are the best person at being you, and no one can do you better than you, right? So I was thinking about us taking an inventory of our lives and looking at ourselves and the achievements. Those achievements have cost tears, money, time, all things that you can't get back, and they have cost you a great deal. But yet, what value do we put on those experiences that we've actually been through that have cost us greatly? So if we sat back and took an inventory of our lives and the things that we've done and the things that we've achieved and how much we've overcome, rather, and I'm not talking about your bank balance or your job title, just actually looking at ourselves and the things that we've accomplished in our lives and taking an inventory at that and going, actually, I've done all right. I've done quite well, and holding on to those things and equally placing a value on those things, so that when we are in those social situations or with family or whatever, we can very much contribute. And we are very much visible because we have to be, because we are the representations of those that are coming up next. So we have to be visible, because I wish that there was somebody like me that I could have spoken to that would have saved me the heartache, the time, the money, and the whatever that I've had to waste if someone had just told me those shortcuts, right? So we have to be visible. We have to be relevant and visible, because there is another woman that's coming up behind you that needs you and needs your voice and needs your story.
Yes. From my own experience about visibility, now, I come across as a very confident person. I am very confident, actually, but come across as a super confident person that no situation could rock me. But actually, I am the total opposite of that. I panic in social situations. I get nervous, not necessarily about doing stuff like this, but I get nervous about one-on-one situations in smaller groups. I feel very exposed, and it's really odd because I turn 50 on Monday. She's going to be face, just so you know. And as I'm getting older, I have a new sense of worth. And it really is. I have struggled with my weight the whole of my life. I've had eating disorders. I've struggled with my sexuality, with my race. I've struggled with all of these things in my life. And I've spoken about them very publicly, and I've written about them, and I've made documentaries about them. And it's so weird because when I look back at when I was talking about them in my 30s, I was still going through it. And there was me thinking I had the answers. I didn't have the answers. I had no answers at all. And it's only at this age now that I don't really worry about, I still worry about stuff, but I don't worry about stuff as much because I value what is inside my brain so much more than all the other stuff. I care what comes out of my mouth way more than what size waist I am. Way more. When I was younger, I didn't really care what was in my brain because I was so bothered about what I looked like and wanting to fit in and feeling like I belonged to something and to a community that I didn't really care what was going on inside my brain. And as I've got older, for me, I am so proud of what's in my head, way more proud than my achievements, because I'm growing into the person that I know that I can be. And every day get better at it, and every day learn something, and every day try and give some of that back. And to your point, Kelle, giving back to the next person that's coming up. And for me in particular, the LGBT community, of the young kids that are coming out and however they're identified, is to know that I've kind of hopefully paved a small way for those people so they can do that. But that gives me confidence. That makes me visible. And it's got nothing to do with what I look like. It's got everything to do with how I feel. That's for me anyway. Now, mental health is one of those areas that we say every single time. When everyone says mental health, you say, we don't talk about it enough. But we seem to be talking about it loads at the moment. And I'm really proud about that because when I was growing up, there were dirty words. Mental and health didn't go together. So, I mean, we've got loads and loads of different stats here, but let's talk about, just going off topic slightly and talking about midlife. When we enter a certain age, we aren't only dealing with, obviously, our bodies changing, we are dealing with our, whether it's the menopause or relationships breaking down or starting a new relationship, all these new things, but we're also, I guess, dealing with people around us in our lives as well. And that could be family members that are getting elderly or their health conditions and stuff like that. And I don't think that we talk about that part enough. The idea is that our lives, our units around us change dramatically, and there's only so much of us that can go around. Do you feel the same way? And so I know that both of you want to talk about this because it's big in your lives. But how do you deal with not only your body and you immediately changing, but also your entire world around you changing, and they all need you a little bit more? Does that make any sense?
So I'm absolutely going through this at the moment. I'm just about to release a documentary about dementia. So my father has vascular dementia. It's the biggest killer in the UK. Again, we're not talking about it. And actually, dementia is end-stage brain disease. We should be looking after ourselves now. So it happens 20 to 30 years before it actually appears. So to your point about struggling at this age, I think part of the invisibility as well that you were talking about earlier comes from getting lost in the needs of other people. And I'm really experiencing that and nobody tells you when you're younger about how hard it is when your mum and your dad start to get sick and how much they need you and how much they then turn into being children and you end up being the parent. And it is really, really hard.
And I think it has a direct impact on your own confidence as well, because you have to then realise that actually the safe space. Yeah.
Yes, and sort of the sense of mortality. This is such a difficult life stage, and it's all very, very personal for all three of us.
Firstly, I know there's a lot of people in this room that are going through it at the moment, so I'm literally physically holding your hand and putting my arms around you. But I think just on a practical side of things, setting the emotional aside for a minute, and I know that's quite a difficult thing. I'm not trying to belittle that, but just to give some practical things that I found helped me. I cared for my grandmother until she passed. She had bladder cancer, and I took her all the way through to end of life, and she's no longer with us. But also trying to manage that whilst you're working and trying to keep a roof over your head, etc., is really challenging. But the first thing I would say is just be open and tell people. So trying to cover up and manage isn't going to work in this situation, because you will leak, like it or not, because it's an emotional, traumatic thing that you're going to go through and that you're experiencing. So rather than leaking and being embarrassed about it, just be open and upfront straight away. You know, say, look, to work, look, this is what's happening. You don't need to go into major detail, but you need to say, I'm dealing with this at the moment. If I could be given a little bit of grace in this season, I'd really appreciate it. And then that takes the heat off of that having an expectation on you in terms of productivity in the workplace. And then the other thing I would do is just ask for help.
Yeah.
We're so not good at asking for help. There is absolutely nothing wrong with saying,
in our survey,
I'm struggling.
7% of people said that they
Exactly.
would ask for professional help. Just 7%.
Only 7%. So just ask for help, because it's much better to say, do you know what I could really do with, could you do the shopping this week? You know, when I was dealing with it, I had to go into, you know, people like that go into social services and be writing forms and filling out forms. And just delegate and say, look, and I know that this is complex because family makeups are complex. You know, not everyone's got this happy-go-lucky family where you can rely on everybody and brothers and sisters that are going to be there to support each other. I get that. And I know I'm speaking to you, but there are, you know, because in my situation, I ended up doing it on my own because I did ask and the help wasn't there. But then they can't turn around and say to you, you never asked for help. Because I can say, yes, I did, and I still did it on my own. So ask for help, speak out, be honest, and those things do stand you in good stead when you get further down the line.
I mean, 100%. This is the time that we absolutely need support, and I can see you girls at the front as well. I hear you. This is a time that we absolutely need the support, and we know that in this country, unfortunately, our care services are not working properly, our health services are not working properly, and it is the expectation on middle-aged women to do all of that care at home, and it's not okay. So yeah, we need help.
And, you know, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I'm sitting here listening, and I want to first of all say thank you. I'm going through this at the moment. It's new for me, so I just cry all the time. I haven't quite worked out how to deal with that stuff, and so it's tough. But, you know, and I'm sitting here listening to two incredible voices that are so honest, and thinking to myself, how does this relate to that gorgeous sunray dress that we saw a moment ago? How does this relate to those silver jeans? But you know what? I am going to relate them. I'm going to link it all together, because, and I do mean this, hand on my heart, because we are, as a brand, and all of you in here, as influencers and writers and producers and whatever, your job is people. It is looking after people, dressing people, talking to people, influencing people. It is so important. Without people, you wouldn't have a job. We wouldn't have a job, and the brand wouldn't have a job either. And hearing stories like this and talking about these subjects and talking about midlife and dementia and mental health and invisibility is so involved in that sunray dress. Because if you don't know your consumer, if you don't know your writer, if we're not talking about people and looking after the people that support us and the work that we do, you don't have a product, you don't have a business. None of us have a business. This is so important. You know, that very famous moment in The Devil Wears Prada when Miranda Priestly talks about the colour and how important it is. One of those moments when I hear this, because we are dealing with people, and if you don't understand people, and if we don't talk about it, and we don't support people going through midlife, then we are in massive. we're in a huge amount of trouble. And so for me, this is as important as the dress, and the dress is as important as this conversation for me personally. And that's the link through. Thank you so much. Years and years and years ago, I made a series called Gok's Teens: The Naked Truth, where we followed 8 teenagers, and each one had a different issue. And one of our stories was a young girl who was obsessed with inspiration sites, so thin inspiration sites. And this is actually even before really the rise of kind of Instagram and TikTok didn't exist and all those things. And so we were looking at this, going, the dangers of this. And so for me, and this is what I try and do, is when I'm posting something up, I don't want to be animated. I don't want to be a cartoon. I don't want to be so retouched. I'm not against retouching at all, but I don't want to be so retouched that I don't look like myself, because that isn't who I am. I also am not going to post a picture up of a beautiful table spread and a gorgeous meal, because if the meal tastes like I'm going to say, this looks gorgeous, but actually it's horrible. So I try, and I'm really conscious in my brain, and you're absolutely right. I learned from making that show that I have to be conscious that I'm not putting up an idyllic world that is unachievable, that doesn't exist, because I don't live in an ideal world. I get spots, and when I've got a spot, I'm the first person to put it on my Instagram, naming it and introducing everyone. I'm doing shots with my double chin wherever I possibly can, because I want people to know actually I'm really human. And I think that one of the messages that for anybody in the public eye or has a big following is, I can absolutely guarantee you, the more real you are on your social media, the more followers you're going to get. And I've experienced that, because if I put up a picture of, oh, isn't this pretty? No one gives a shit. Everyone has seen that hill and the mountain and the cow. Everyone has seen that picture, but not everyone has seen my amazing double chin. And so for me, that's what I try and do, and I'm conscious of thinking about that as well.
I'm just going to very quickly jump in as well, because you are brilliant at being authentic on social media, as are you, Kelle, and you've been on my podcast, and I know how authentic you are, and thank you for that. I do a lot of work around mental health. I'm a qualified hypnotherapist as well, and registered hypnotherapist. I do a lot of work around this. We know from a mental health point of view that the further you are from your authentic self, the more unhappy you're going to be. So you have to follow your own values, and you have to surround yourself with the people who reflect you as well. So the closer you can be to who you are, the more content you're going to be, and that's what we're looking for at the moment. So again, on my social media, I do nothing really, but just sort of either reflect the work that I do, or reflect the fact I've got no makeup on, or I'm in a wetsuit falling into the sea, and I don't care, because that's who I am.
Exactly.
And if you don't like it, don't follow
someone
me.
else.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would just add to that we have to be responsible, because as much as the algorithm can work against you, it can work for you too. So just click the stuff that you need in your life, rather than clicking the stuff you don't need in your life. And be very purposeful about what you click on, because your click leaves you a digital footprint and teaches people about yourself and gives you more about what you click, not necessarily about what you think you want. So be responsible with your click. So for me,
Oh
if
dear.
I'm scrolling,
I'm in so much trouble.
now,
Mine says Phil Foden.
Right, but so for me, people go, oh, but I can spend some time, don't spend a lot, I can spend some time on social media, because what I'm getting given is what I'm asking it for. So I'll get stuff that's positive, that inspires me for the day, that motivates me for the day, where there are people that are authentic in my feed that are coming up, because I'm really responsible with what I hover over and what I click on. So we also need to take responsibility for what we're getting fed.
And one tiny thing that I'm going to jump in on that as
We're
well.
going to have to
literally,
I want to get shot.
But
they're going to shoot me.
My final thought on this,
Dead
particularly
Gok.
that we're
gone.
in a fashion environment. Everybody's talking at the moment. If you look on your social media feed, look at all these women who are so thin, particularly in the public eye, going, look how much weight I've lost. Yeah, I am sick to death of people who are jabbing themselves but not being honest about it. And that's my problem with social media. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, this is what we look like as midlife women. It's not that very, very skinny woman who suddenly lost weight.
This has gone from a panel show into a movement. You know that, don't you? Right, our final comment. You're going to close it, girl.
All I want to say is there was a time when being midlife was old. Yeah. And I think we are the kind of the next...
God, I love you, Angie.
I love you.
Absolutely. Right, everyone, tops off. We're going to jump off the building. We're going to abseil down this building. Thank you, Angie. You're amazing. Give it up for Angie. I just want to say a huge thank you to Helen, to Sarah, to Kelle, to Anna, to all of our models, the people we work with. Thank you to all of you lot for coming. Thank you to our My Mum, Your Dad cast, but mainly a thank you to me. So, mainly...